Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Timmothy Pitzen? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoy this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the disappearance, then offer my analysis. James Pitzen and Amy Joan Marie Fry Pitzen met in late 2002 at a party in Ames, Iowa. The party was for Amy. She was getting ready to move 6 hours away to Antioch, Illinois. This is an hour north of Chicago. She was moving there because that's where her mother lived. James and Amy connected at the party. James asked Amy out the next day, and they started dating. He helped her move to Antioch, and they continued their relationship long distance. Amy had a history of depression and had been divorced 3 times. Not long after the couple started dating, Amy was driving home from a job interview. She became overwhelmed with anxiety and a sense of hopelessness. She pulled her vehicle near the edge of an embankment, took some pills, exited her vehicle, and went over the edge. She survived, but she was injured. She had broken a vertebra and had hypothermia. Interestingly, Amy was eventually given the job. To say that she overreacted is a bit of an understatement. James and Amy did not intend to have children. James mistakenly believed that he was sterile because he had chemotherapy when he was 20 years old. Amy became pregnant just over a year after they started dating. The couple married in May 2004. At this time, they were living in Aurora, Illinois, and were both working for a commercial real estate business owned by Amy's father. On October 18, 2004, Amy had a son named Timothy. Amy had a brother who died at birth who was named Timothy. Her son was named after him, but in order to distinguish the two, her son had 2 M's in his name, so Timmothy. James took a job for a company that designed and built schools. The business owned by Amy's father closed. Therefore, Amy found a different job, this time with a property management firm. The combined weight of Amy's mental health problems and financial concerns put an unbearable strain on the marriage. The couple was arguing frequently. In 2008, James discovered text messages that his wife had sent to one of her ex-husbands. They were discussing meeting while James was out of town. James suggested to Amy that they get divorced. He told her that he would find a way to get custody of Timothy. Amy decided to stay in the marriage. However, this particular threat about getting custody of Timothy frightened her. She became worried about losing custody. She was aware that her mental health history would work against her. The couple continued to argue over the course of the next few years. In 2011, Amy went on a trip to the Bahamas with another woman who was her best friend. James was not invited. He wasn't too happy about this. This situation led to more stress in the relationship. Now moving to the timeline of the disappearance. On May 11, 2011, not long before 8 a.m., James and Amy dropped off Timothy at Greenman Elementary School for his kindergarten class. James then drove to Amy's employer and dropped her off for work. What James did not know was that Amy had left her 2004 Ford Expedition in the parking lot at her job. After James left to go to his job, Amy climbed in the Ford and drove back to the school, arriving at about 8:15 a.m. She falsely claimed to the staff at the school that there was a family emergency. She checked Timothy out of class. They left the school at around 8:35 a.m. At around 10 a.m., Amy arrived at a repair shop in LaGrange, Illinois. She dropped off the Ford Expedition for repairs, which would take a few hours. An employee at the shop gave Amy and Timothy a ride to the Brookfield Zoo, which is about 10 minutes away. Amy and Timothy returned to the automotive shop at 3 p.m. and picked up the SUV. She drove to an indoor water park in Gurnee, Illinois, which is over an hour north. Amy and Timothy spent the night in that town. The next day, May 12, they drove almost 4 hours to a resort in the city of Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. Along the way, Amy stopped and bought clothing, a craft kit, a toy car, and a few other items. On May 13 at 10 a.m., they were spotted on video surveillance waiting to check out of the resort. This is the last known sighting of Timothy. Amy drove south on Interstate 39 and west on Interstate 88 toward Sterling, Illinois. Between 12 p.m. and 1:30 p.m. the same day, as Amy was driving, she made phone calls to a few of her family members, including her mother and brother-in-law. Amy told her mother that everything was fine. When she was on the phone with her brother-in-law, she let Timothy speak to him briefly. Her brother-in-law told Amy to call her husband, James. She told him, "Tim is my son, and I can do what I want." She also said, "Tim belongs to me." On one of the calls, Timothy can be heard in the background saying he was hungry. Amy attempted to call her husband, James, but he did not answer the phone. He tried calling her back, but there was no answer. By this point, James was desperately trying to find out what happened to Timothy. Somewhere near Sterling, Illinois, Amy turned off her phone. At 8 p.m., still on May 13, Amy was captured on surveillance video in Winnebago, Illinois, which is about an hour north of Sterling. She purchased stationery and envelopes from a Sullivan's Foods grocery store. She appeared to be alone. Between 11:15 and 11:30 p.m., Amy checked into the Rockford Inn, located in Rockford, Illinois. This is about 15 minutes from Winnebago. In her motel room, she brought an end to her life by causing damage to her neck and wrists with a box cutter and by taking antihistamines. Amy Fry Pitzen was 43 years old. On the next day, May 14, Amy's body was found in her motel room at 12:30 p.m. She left a note in the room which contained a few statements. She was sorry for the mess that she created. Timothy was safe with people who would care for him, and he would never be found. She sent 2 other notes to her mother and her best friend, which essentially stated the same thing. Here's what the police found during their investigation. Timothy's blood was in Amy's vehicle. The police said it was a concerning amount, but later came to believe it was from a nosebleed Timothy had months before his disappearance. The only blood on the box cutter in the motel room belonged to Amy. The police found long weeds, tall grass, and dirt lodged beneath the rear bumper of the Ford Expedition. An analysis led them to several conclusions. Amy must have stopped on a gravel shoulder or a gravel road. At one point, she backed onto a grass field not surrounded by many trees, and she was close to a pond, stream, or small creek. The police believe that the field was not used for farming, and the grass had not been cut. Amy's cell phone was missing. It was turned into the authorities a couple of years later, in 2013, after being found in 2011 near Route 78 in Mount Carroll, Illinois, which is about an hour west of the motel where Amy's body was found. No useful information was found on the phone. No sign of 6-year-old Timothy has ever been found. There have been a few false alarms, including a man in Kentucky who falsely claimed to be Timothy, but no new meaningful information has been discovered. Now moving to my analysis. There are a few people who believe that Timothy Pitzen is still alive, including his father James and Amy's sister. But many people believe that Amy murdered Timothy. Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that Amy killed her son, starting with the inculpatory evidence. Amy orchestrated picking up Timothy at school so her husband would not find out, and she lied to the school about the reason for picking him up. She had her vehicle repaired as if to prepare for a long trip. Then she drove several hundred miles over the next few days. Amy purchased toys for Timothy as if she was feeling guilty about something. Amy's vehicle was backed up into a grass field and may have been near water. One possible reason for doing this would be to hide a body. Amy brought an end to her own life. According to data collected from Amy's iPass, which is the Illinois version of EasyPass, she visited Sterling, Illinois on 2 occasions not long before the disappearance, as if she were searching for a perfect place to hide a body. Amy had a tumultuous relationship with her husband, and was specifically worried about losing custody of Timothy if she was to get divorced. Timothy Pitzen was never found. Moving to the exculpatory factors, there is no physical evidence that Timothy is dead other than the blood in the SUV, which can be explained in a way that would not have to involve death. Amy told relatives that Timothy was fine and left notes to the same effect. Amy had been described as a good mother who cared about her son. When considering all the evidence, do I think that Amy murdered Timothy? Yes. In my opinion, there is little doubt. It is very unlikely that Amy found people to raise Timothy and hide him at the same time. How could she have located people who would do that? Typically, that's considered something like kidnapping, and most kidnappers do not have an extensive advertising budget, mostly because of the going to prison part. If she did somehow find a discreet and iniquitous kidnapping service, there would probably be some evidence that she searched for them or contacted them. Moving to the next question, how would I conceptualize this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Amy was described as depressed and anxious, and she frequently had thoughts of harming herself. She received mental health counseling, but it was not very effective. Similarly, medications did not seem to help her. One of her relatives said that Amy was in search of something to make her happy. It would appear that Amy did not have much success in this area. She was married 4 times, but it did not satisfy her desires or give her a sense of purpose. When Amy had Timothy, she finally found meaning in her life. He was what she was searching for. Being a mother became a core component of Amy's identity, to the point where losing custody would have shattered her sense of self. She could not tolerate that possibility. When James threatened to fight for custody of Timothy, Amy became fearful. This touched on a deep sense of insecurity she had about her mental health problems. At this point, Amy developed a plan to make sure that nobody would have Timothy if she could not have him. Amy may not have had the intent of executing the plan at any specific time, but it's something that she kept in the back of her mind. When Amy came back from the Bahamas and fought with James, she decided she no longer wanted to exist. In addition, she wanted to punish James as much as possible. Amy decided to make the trip as memorable as she could before committing the crime to lessen her guilt and shame. She wanted to provide Timothy a magical few days where he would enjoy some of his favorite activities, like going to the zoo and water park. She bought him toys as well. Amy worked hard to convince herself that she was doing what was best for everybody. She did not want to accept that she was self-centered and sadistic. Not long before she died, Amy murdered Timothy and dumped his body in or near water. In her final notes, she tried to paint a picture of peace and serenity. She lied and suggested that Timothy was safe. In a way, the statements she made may have been symbolic. Like when she stated that Timothy was with people who would take care of him, she may have meant Timothy was in heaven. When she stated that he would never be found again, that's because he was dead. She spoke figuratively because she did not want to face her own homicidal behavior. She was attempting to hold on to the illusion of being a loving mother. She may have convinced herself that by killing Timothy, she spared him a life without her. Despite her self-destructive tendencies, Amy was grandiose. Now moving to my final thoughts. When a person conceptualizes a relationship between 2 people as a single identity, it creates a dangerous situation. When one person determines what is right for 2 people, that one person assumes to know what's best for both of them. Amy was making decisions not only for herself, but for her son, because she viewed her and Timothy as one. This meant that her self-destructive tendencies extended to him. Amy had a distorted version of love and hate. She loved her son so much that she extended her self-hate to him. Those are my thoughts on the case of Timmothy Pitzen. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.